Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me. We will start just in a few seconds, waiting for everybody to get into the webinar. Thank you so much for being with us today. Okay, so I think everybody's in. We start a very Swiss time. Hello from Switzerland. My name is Mario Sgarella. For those that don't know me, I'm the head of marketing at Les Roches, Global Hospitality Education. First of all, a warm welcome and thanks for making time to attend today's webinar where we'll explore together with faculty and alumni of Les Roches the future of hospitality. First of all, I hope and I'm sure all of you are safe and sound wherever you are around the world, and you're keeping up with the lockdowns and the different situations. Stay strong. This is our best wishes from Les Roches. This is a series of webinars that we have put together at Les Roches to talk about our programs in hospitality, our courses, to debate a little bit about the future and careers in the future of hospitality. Today, I have the pleasure of having with me Professor Frank Gueuning. Let me see if his bio is popping up. There we go. Professor Frank Gueuning is a lecturer and a program manager for the Postgraduate Diploma in Switzerland. And then we have two alumni. Maybe I'll let Professor Gueuning introduce himself.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon. Welcome all, and thank you for this opportunity to share a little bit briefly on my career path, which is in front of you, but I'm former hotelier. I still regard myself as a hotelier that's turned to education in the past 10 years or so, and private sort of independent hotels as a background and chain, and both has given me a unique insight in the industry, because typically we work in independent hotels or chain hotels, but I worked on both sides. And since joining Les Roches, it's been about sharing the passion, trying to share what is needed to be working in the industry, certainly in the traditional hospitality industry. Then, in Les Roches, of course, because of lifelong learning, I did, which is not featured on my slides there, but I did a master's as well in hospitality management and an MBA in finance and accounting before really teaching a little bit of accounting, finance, and revenue management to students in Les Roches. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Gueuning. And sorry, one thing I forgot is the opportunity for you to ask questions and chat with us. It's you should see it on your screen, questions or chat box, and you can put both questions and anything you have for our speakers there, and we will respond to them as soon as possible. The next speaker with us today is Paolo Borgiallo, a graduate of the Les Roches Postgraduate Diploma from 2015. Hello, Paolo.
Hello.
Please introduce yourself.
Yes.
The floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. I'm Paolo. As Mario said, yes, I graduated in 2015. I started my PGD program in Shanghai, where I was living for a few years. I was working in events and PR at the time. So I was working a lot with hospitality as a customer mostly, and I decided I wanted to switch to working in the industry. So I enrolled in Les Roches. I moved to Switzerland for the remainder of the program, and I moved back to Asia after graduation. I am now in Manila, Philippines. As you can see, it's 8 p.m. over here. I'm working for Zen Rooms, which is a brand of budget hotels. We started a few years ago with the backing of Rocket Internet, for those who know it, from Germany. And now we are working mostly with Booking Holding and Yanolja, the South Korean company. And we manage our own hotels and apartments, which is what my team does mostly, across Southeast Asia, here Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Thailand. And we provide a wide range of services to independent hotels across the region, in a nutshell.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paolo. And the final speaker is Dorian, also graduated from Les Roches in 2016 and now working at My Hotel Shop. Hello, Dorian. Tell us about you and what is My Hotel Shop?
Hi. Well, to everybody, thanks for joining. So I'm Dorian Wilson Debriano. I graduated from Les Roches, Switzerland in 2016. And I was actually joining not as a PGD, but in a BVA and a BSc program. So that was so I did the full course of 4 years in Les Roches. And I now work as the Chief Commercial Officer for My Hotel Shop, which is the leading online marketing agency and software provider for the hospitality industry in, let's say, the German-speaking markets, so the DACH markets. And we're now all over Europe and even present in the United States with thousands of hotels for who we offer online marketing. I actually graduated in Les Roches I started Les Roches with a real objective to work in the hospitality industry as from an operational perspective. So let's say with a dream of actually going more towards Paolo's career path. And actually in my final year of Les Roches, I decided to move out and go into the whole online part, distribution part, and marketing. And starting off as a salesman and then going through my career, we can talk a little bit about that later in the presentation. But mainly then really focusing on this online side of hospitality, everything actually that happens in the back about how customers find hotels, how they decide on their hotels, and what are the different levers that hotels have to actually target these customers and get them to book for their hotel. And that's everything that I do in a nutshell and what we do at My Hotel Shop.
Thank you, Dorian. And now we want to hear a little bit about the audience. So about all of you on the line, I'm going to pull up a poll. You should be able to see on your screen. Please tell us who you are. And then Professor Gueuning, I'll leave the floor to you to comment the results and to get it started, the debate. Thank you.
Thank you. So, but we'll wait for the result. But in the meantime, we're all living strange times in many ways where we have home working, teleworking, remote teaching. We do all sorts of online teaching, and you're all probably part of that across the world. And this is really an opportunity for thought and reflection, because these sort of events, none of the peers, none of the parents, none of the grandparents, maybe some grandparents, but they witness such global issues that we're all facing. I mean, it is a time really when we need to start looking at the future of hospitality, really a good topic to have this discussion here for the next 20 minutes or so, because we need to pause, we need to understand and say, okay, let's move out from what we did day to day and start thinking, how do we progress? So most of you are students out there and young professionals, okay, and experienced professionals as well. We have quite a variety there. And perhaps the future entrepreneurs, maybe not today, but it's one of the things, certainly when you join Les Roches, there's a spirit of trying to create that entrepreneurial mindset, so that we cannot give you the tablet to become an entrepreneur, but you can certainly, learning from the contacts you have within the school, within Les Roches, you can certainly become that likely entrepreneurs. Deep down somewhere, we probably all would like to be entrepreneurs, or some are better fit than others. So it's interesting, but thank you for joining us. And I want to add a question to my two guest speakers on the changes. And the first slide we have there is face-to-face interaction will survive. And I created this slide because what we have lived for the last 3, 4, 5 weeks, depending on the countries we are living in, we've had to adapt. And ultimately, I would like to understand from both of you, because the millennial is the future market, which is driving many of the changes we have in the industry today. They're not driving the change because of my generation. The changes are being driven by millennials for the millennials. And how do you see the current trends because of the current situation? Do you start seeing emerging trends of what may happen in the future, or what may change, or what may become taboo? We'll start with Paolo.
From the operational standpoint, of course, especially in this situation, hotels are still open, people are still working in them, and rooms do not clean themselves. So yes, there is for sure a part of face-to-face interaction that is there and will have to stay there. For sure, we will see more automation and some processes that now are handled in person, face-to-face at the hotel, will transition to something different. It's a very different situation depending on the country, I believe, on the part of the world. Where we are in Southeast Asia, and particularly for the budget segment, which is what I work in, we are still not that high tech. There is a big component of human component, if you want. So transitioning to something else will take time. So yes, for sure we will see. We're already seeing, because everybody had to adapt extremely quick. So we are already changing a lot of things. It's going faster than it would have otherwise, but the face-to-face, in-person part is there and will stay there for sure.
Okay. And Doria, thank you, Paolo.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna add on to a few points that that Paolo was just mentioning. You know, what happens is that, or one of the biggest discussions that's going on now is actually what are the parts of the hotel and the parts of hospitality that will be affected and changing in because of COVID and because of this crisis. Of course, it involves a lot about the where there are many touch points between people, right? The front desk, guest relation officers in hotels, in restaurants, in bars. These are all a lot of places where there is a dense population of people, potentially people waiting on lines. Sometimes, everybody knows the experience of arriving at right at check-in moments in a hotel with a lot of people. These are moments that are very dangerous when talking about a type of situation and from a sanitary perspective. And so one of the biggest things that's happening is, in fact, it's not a new trend, but COVID is going to speed up the adoption phase for being able to implement automation in the processes of hotels. And many people think, oh, but this is bad. We're going to lose front office agents. We're going to lose guest relations agents. This is going to be a problem for our industry. But in fact, completely the other way, it's a very exciting type of situation, because face-to-face is going to mean quality. Face-to-face is going to be an added benefit to service. And maybe if you're in the budget level in let's say in 10 years, you're most likely going to have some of those annoying processes that are today annoying for guests are going to be actually fully automated, but you might have some additional benefits when going to maybe a more expensive or more advanced property that is going to be providing human quality and human face-to-face interaction on top of the technology. And regarding the whole topic about it changing our industry from a job perspective, in fact, there's going to be more and more necessity for tech-savvy employees being able to use this automation as levers to improve sanitary regulations, improving speed in the processes, and all these types of things. So definitely it's changing, but I think it's more of a speed up of things that have already been in place rather than drastically changing the industry.
Okay, thank you. It's a good insight, that, because ultimately it shows that every time there's a crisis or a new disruptor in the market, the hospitality industry has to adapt. Any industry has to adapt. I mean, it's not the only industry in the world that needs to adapt is hospitality, but we certainly have that phase now where we have to reflect, and we have a little bit of time to reflect. I'm thinking also that there could be new opportunities for hospitality, certainly with regard to face-to-face interaction and changing the way we do things, because it's very traditional. You know, we rent room space, except in airports and near airports, but let's say on the whole, the industry, more or less in 24-hour block. We rent meeting space in half days, full days, 24 hours. It's so traditional, it's not changed for generations. And I'm wondering if, you know, two things may happen. There will be more home working or teleworking in the next years, in the years to come, because we're all adapting. Therefore, companies will be able to reduce commercial floor space in the city centers. And that means people will need to meet. Where will they meet? Well, we have already the startup of this innovation with a sort of mixed-use lobbies from some hotel brands where you can work and mix and play and interact and everything. So all these things are going to, I think, probably, yes, push a little bit the change, or for change a bit faster. I think if a hotel, certainly in a city, changes the way they do business with regard to day meetings, and it might be in changing practices, there's a lot of business opportunities and revenue to capture in the future. But we need to be creative about it. And this is the type of reflection that these days, I was mentioning about revenue management, is no longer about revenue management as such and the forecasting and the spreadsheets and everything. Is really revenue generation, is looking in the broader context. How can we bring more revenue to the door? I can forecast, and it's great. It might change my business by a few percentage points, but if I can generate more demand altogether by changing a business practice, it surely is all the better for the future.
Absolutely. And if I can add on that, sorry, one of the biggest things that's going to be happening right now, and I know that a lot of companies are already looking at it, it's actually the better use of space in hotels, and essentially in finding ways to monetize every square meter that's available in a hotel. And part of this, now looking at it from a clean and safe perspective, which is going to make everything very interesting.
Yep, I agree with that. And I think, Paolo, you probably found similar trends or shift in sort of design maybe already happening in Southeast Asia.
Yes, we are, that's the challenge. We have to make the most of our space and yes, monetize it, but at the same time also guarantee the guests' safety. For example, yes, we are redesigning our lobbies in many of the properties. We need to be able to avoid crowds at check-in, ensure that everybody is and feels safe, but at the same time, we cannot have people scattered all over the all over the lobby and a lot of empty space that has no use. So that's one of the things that we are working on. And F&B is another big challenge. At the moment, we are not operating our F&B outlets because of lockdowns, and current regulations require that meals are only served in rooms, box meals only. So we are not using the dining area. But when we start using it again, we're going to have to ensure proper distancing of tables, for example. And we have this nice counter where everybody was eating their breakfast elbow to elbow. For sure, that's not going to happen anymore. So we will have to figure out changed capacity, seating, and all of that. It's going to be interesting. There's a lot of these going on.
I think it will be interesting to see what the survey, the poll comes up with, but really I think that substantial amount of opportunities are there, and the sad thing is that some businesses will go under, will go bust, and it's always sad, but on the other hand, that creates opportunities for new entrants in the market with new ideas to re-energize a little bit the industry. And this is one of the things, not directly in classes, but it's a sort of spirit in Les Roches that we try to create, that entrepreneurial and innovative sort of spirit and mindset. Just one more question on this, because you're both involved with unique sort of part of the market. Do you think we'll see more consolidation of the big groups, or do you think there will be a new rise in the smaller groups, more adaptable, nimble, maybe Zen, maybe independent hotels, or a group of small independent hotels? Or is it the future belongs to Marriott and Accor and companies like that? Dorian?
Yeah, maybe I can talk a little bit about that, especially that we operate especially with independent properties. So right now we haven't seen any real consolidation approaches, or let's say there hasn't been a trend towards consolidation yet. But it's obvious that hotels right now are limited in cash, and a lot of them are afraid of what's going to happen if the recovery is not fast enough. And so there's definitely small groups, groups of maybe 5, 10, 20 properties that are right now, with deep pockets, and that have the opportunity right now to go out and look for potential buys in order to purchase additional properties and add them to their portfolio. On the other hand, it's also going to show that there's a need for shared responsibility and shared standards around how to handle these types of situations, which is a huge benefit for larger hotel chains, because guys like Marriott and Hilton and the others of the like, they already have all these standards in place and recovery strategies that can be handled from a corporate perspective and from a corporate level. When the independent properties, they need to handle everything from their strategy all the way to their operation. So one of the main things will be actually associations, hospitality professionals working together towards improving themselves, or potentially even creating brands that have maybe a new look. So something different from the typical management and franchise type of business, going more towards the type of collection approach that was very popular in the last 10 years, like, preferred hotels and leading hotels of the world, and etc. But that will be providing a significant amount of standardization and around these types of processes.
Okay, thank you.
Professor Gueuning, in the meantime, we have the results of the poll. That apologies, it just went straight to everybody while you were talking.
Thank you. So we will bounce back after some adjustments, which I think, yes, invariably, human nature, we are very strong and very resilient. We do bounce back. There may be some shift, but that's always for the good. And it's probably one of the major shifts that will occur is the sort of acceptance of climate change and certainly adhering to becoming more environmentally, socially, and economically sustainable. So we have all that sustainability aspect that's certainly going to play a bigger part post this situation. But it's good to see that everybody sees the glass half full, or most of it, rather than half empty. And every crisis, I've lived a few, not as bad as this, but they certainly do bring the best out of, the people who have energy. So swiftly moving on to the next topic I wanted to discuss, because this is a hot topic as well, the sharing economy, eating market share to the hotel. Do you see it as an opportunity or a threat? Paolo, what is happening in Southeast Asia with this? At the budget end of the market?
Well, bit of both, opportunity and threat. Opportunity to do things better, for sure, but what we noticed, so a bit of context, one big segment of what we do in some of the countries are not traditional hotels, but service apartments. So we operate apartments within a condo, a residential area, that we sell as hotel rooms, generally for short stays. So we for 1 night, 2 nights, 1 week. So the sharing economy, some companies are direct competition. And what all of this is that many guests prefer staying with us because they have a guarantee of quality. That if you go at an independently managed apartment that somebody decides to rent out and post on the internet, you never know what you find. Sometimes you're very lucky and you have an amazing stay. Some other time you spend all of your stay killing cockroaches. So that's something that in our rooms does not happen because we manage them as hotel rooms. We have our SOPs for housekeeping. We have our staff on premises checking you in and assisting you while you're there, and so on and so forth. And that becomes even more important, I believe, in the current scenario when if you want to go to a hotel or an apartment, you want to have the assurance that everything is clean and safe and sanitized. And that's something that we can offer. Somebody who is informally offering a room without being a hospitality professional most likely cannot do. So.
Thank you. Doyo, briefly on sharing economy and the influence it has for you as a business.
For us as a business, not much, because we're from a marketing perspective. I think that actually for us, it's more of an opportunity than a threat, because the biggest problem for hotels is that this increases competition, right? And so because of that, it means that there's a larger amount of supply on the market for rooms available, and sometimes much better quality. So hotels are actually looking much more for opportunities to be able to present their offers better online. So for us, it's a good opportunity. But let's say that for the hotels themselves, they need to figure out ways to leverage this situation in a way to either improve their product, obviously, or potentially target different segments to which they used to target. Because, by the way, the shared economy, especially around vacation rentals and apartments, has gone so far for hotels that it's even available on Booking.com and Expedia, which were booking platforms for hotels specifically. So it can be a big threat for a lot of properties, and it'll kill more properties than COVID will.
But it's interesting because I lived through the birth of the online travel agents in the early mid-90s, and it was our complacency of hoteliers of the time. And the sharing economy is a little bit the same. They come and disrupt the market. So when the OTA came, we had to fight one way or another, and then you have really the increase of the use of the loyalty programs and everything, and trying to build that rapport and everything. The sharing economy is doing the same, because ultimately we have that contact with the guest more than in the Airbnb. Now it's interesting that they are talking about providing an experience as well, but it's still a transaction, the experience. It's not an emotional transaction. And this is where it's really interesting how, everybody tries and nibble from both sides. You say some properties are now on booking.com or whichever platform, and the hotel side, we need to start thinking about how do we nibble at their gain in market share from the sharing economy. But it's always good to have disruptors. Okay, the undesirable disruptor, COVID-19, but it's always good to have disruptors, OTAs, sharing economy. It always forces us to rethink, and this is very important. I think we'll have time to go to another slide which mentioned about the experiences, because it links from the sharing economy, where I think the meaning of the word experience is being, inverted comma, abused. Guests are looking for a genuine, a meaningful experience, I think, these days. And this is where the hotel needs to focus on their differentiation strategies. They need to provide, I think, with the social media, and you may touch on that later, but the end-to-end journey from the search to the booking to the staying to the departure to the guest sharing online to become loyal customer, the whole chain, we need to interact and enhance the experience to really get emotionally involved with our guests, which is something that new jobs in the industry is all these sort of areas. And it's interesting, Doyon, you mentioned jobs will not disappear, and it's true. 100 or so years ago, the Ritz in Paris had as many staff as they have today. While there was no internet, there was no computer. Jobs have shifted. We have dishwasher, so the pot washer is no longer by hand, it's a machine doing it, and it's shifted in other areas. So there's new opportunities and new jobs, that's for sure. Tell me, what do you think of the experience and how you can provide it? And I'll go back to Paolo on this because of the budget end of the market. Is it meaningful, providing the guest experience, and how do you try to make it different to what may be in a sharing platform like Airbnb?
Well, of course, it's even guests who travel and stay in a budget kind of accommodation like what we do are still looking for a meaningful experience. We have to give them a reason to choose us instead of someone else. There's a lot of competition. It is in Southeast Asia, it's a booming segment of the market. More and more people can afford traveling, and they are in our what we try to do and the way that we try to connect with them and to make them appreciate their choice and go to us is precisely what I mentioned before, quality. The way it is now over here, you have very good 5-star accommodation, you have very good ultra budget, while everything in between is very much hit or miss. So building a solid brand that gives you some reassurance of both the actual quality of what you see when you get into your room, when you get into the property, but also on a personal level, the kind of experience that you get by interacting with our staff, the kind of assistance that we can provide, and the way that would make you discover the place if you're a tourist, a traveler, or feel at home if you are even a local who is with us for for work. There's quite a lot of them, or traveling in their own country. It makes all the difference, and that's what guests are looking for, I believe.
Thank you. Dorian, you want to add anything here?
Yeah, I think that in reality, what needs to be done, and when we look at the future of this topic about experience, it's actually rethinking and in order to understand actually what does the customer want. Because when we look at the shared economy, when we look at what Paulo just said, right, that super 5-star offers great experience and ultra budget offers great experience, but everything in between is a little bit struggling. Well, it's a sign that actually what the traditional way that we've been doing things for so long actually proves to be completely wrong. In reality today, budget hotels sometimes offer better quality than 4-star hotels, and in terms of facilities, in terms of service, and all these types of things. And an Airbnb experience sometimes is better than a 4-star hotel as well. So it's important to understand actually what is the customer needing, what does the customer want, and then from there to adapt our service and our hotels towards that. And I think that, even to lead on to the next slide, is that the biggest way to get this is to start understanding and reading the data properly. Sorry, because reading the data of our clients and of our users properly will allow us to make the adaptations in our hotels in maybe fast and economic ways, to be able to distribute properly and offer the right service to the clients. Because about that, by the way, the hospitality industry used to be very slow and is somehow still slow. So, for example, just to give you an example, Marriott, right, said, well, there's a new generation of travelers and they want a new experience. So let's create a complete new brand to service them. This is actually, even though of course Marriott makes a lot of money and their new brands are great, it's actually a completely wrong way of looking at things. There's a new generation of travelers and they want a different type of service, but it's not that they don't want to stay in the same brands as what is currently existing. It's that those brands don't offer that, and they need to be able to be flexible enough to adapt. But what happens is that in order to change a lobby, change rooms, change beds, it requires a huge investment, and it requires huge costs to be able to make these changes. So today, when looking at AI, AR, VR, and online marketing and data and all these things, it allows us to take decisions to be able to properly actually adapt our ways to fit the customers in better ways. That's one thing to make this kind of transition. And then if you want, I can jump into the strategies leading to success around marketing. Especially when looking at the whole COVID situation, the bottom line, I think, for online marketing today will be personalization. Maybe to give an understanding for everybody that's listening, that's maybe not totally into the topic, hotels today, to sell their rooms, of course, they need to, let's say, be visible online. And in order to be visible online, in the past 10, 15 years, let's say 20 years almost, they've been going to online travel agencies, Booking.com, Expedia, these types of companies. And these are actually distribution companies, because you can give a room and availability, and then people can book it, and they do the transaction on that website, and then the customer comes to the hotel, and the hotel needs to pay a pretty high commission to these online travel agencies. But in exchange, the online travel agency will do all the marketing for the hotel as well. So that's how you go on companies like Trivago or on Google or on TripAdvisor, and you see prices with a Booking.com rate or a TripAdvisor rate. But what happens is now, because of COVID, these companies like Booking.com and Expedia, they reduced their marketing spends and their marketing budgets. So what this means is that by giving all your, or for hotels to give all of their, let's say, marketing and visibility to the hands of OTAs, well then, because of this crisis, they all of a sudden get less visibility than they expected. And this will lead to less revenue because less travelers. So, and part of this means that actually hotels are now, and this is the biggest thing, is are now starting to think, well, maybe I should start taking control over my marketing my own brand. I have maybe one hotel, I might have 10 hotels, I might have 200 hotels. It's fine, but I still need to market my own brand, and not in ways like what you may be used to, like buying a billboard and buying online advertising space that costs millions of dollars, or even worse, making TV advertising, but actually in understanding who your audiences are. So who are your travelers? Where are they coming from? And making sure that you're present for these customers from the beginning all the way to the end. So that when they search for you on Google, when they search for a hotel on Trivago, or they search for a hotel on whatever website, even on, they go back on Facebook, that your hotel is visible there, and that you're able to book the hotel through your own online distribution channel, and which will allow then to generate more bookings, but of course bookings also at a better cost, because this is what today marketing is going towards, is less of this gigantic, big spending, emotional advertising, and moving more towards return on investment focused advertising that is targeted to users that are actually looking for this specific type of property. And this is going to change. This is changing, and thanks to all the new technologies out there, it's becoming more and more possible. And that's really what I would say as a global strategy. And then along there, you can focus on so many different things around making sure that you're only sending, doing or paying for advertising if you have availability in your hotel, for example, and making sure that you're targeting the right geolocations, targeting travelers to, you know, the minute that they're in front of their laptop, and making sure that they actually see your ads and can book your hotel. That's what I would say is one of the biggest strategies and what's changing right now in the world. And by the way, which is a huge advantage for smaller chains and smaller hotels.
Yeah, thank you. It makes a lot of sense. Paolo, do you want to add anything on this? Otherwise, the audience, do not hesitate to ask questions.
I agree completely. It's all about content, not about the branding or how you package it, but what you actually offer. And it's very important now more than ever to listen to what our guests are expecting.
Okay. Now, briefly, because we go to jobs and everything in the current slides, of course, hospitality industry and the training you get in the hotel school, Les Roches, as this current example, of course, it leads you or can lead you to many different different jobs. Traditional industry, it is in high demand because there's a lot of being built there, and it's a lovely industry to work in and with. It would be interesting to take your views and share a little bit on, you know, even Paolo, it's non-traditional because you're in the budget segment and it's not a childhood dream, probably is more the grand brands of Four Seasons, Ritz-Carlton and Peninsula. So your take on your career path and how it happened from Les Roches. And Dorian, you said you were dreaming of becoming hotel manager and then you drifted somewhere else. So just in a minute or so, just a little bit, the career, the jobs, how easy was it to find a job and to move on from there?
In the meantime, we'll launch a poll for all attendees to give your view. Thank you.
Paolo first.
Okay, so Finding a job at first was not that easy because I really wanted to work in operations, and I was coming from a different industry. As I quickly mentioned before, I actually worked with hospitality quite a bit even before, so I had a good understanding of how things worked, but I had to make employers see that. And I was lucky to find eventually this company that entrusted me with a lot of when I joined, we were just launching the operations proper. So I really had a chance to build my team and the way that we manage our hotels from the ground up, and it was amazing. Working in the budget segment in this part of the world right now is very interesting, very exciting. There's a lot going on, and it's the segment of the hospitality market that is growing the most, the fastest. The the good side was also being able to introduce standards that are usually not connected to the budget segment, because there is this misunderstanding that if if a customer is going for budget, then they do not they're not so picky. They don't expect things to be done a certain way, which is wrong, because guess whatever they spend, whatever they go for, their aim is value for money. So they want to feel that they are getting what they paid for, and we have to meet those expectations and give them their they make them feel that they made the right choice.
Okay.
So yes.
Okay, but it's interesting. And Dorian, what happened to you from Les Roches?
So I started off, as I said, in Les Roches, really with an objective to do the traditional path, let's say join into a hotel and all these types of things. And what happened is that in my last 2 years of well, first of all, what happened is actually when I did my second internship, I did it in Thailand, in Bangkok, in the marketing department for the Plaza Atene. And there I saw how, let's say, boring the marketing is in a hotel chain. I was quite surprised about how everything is standardized. You need to follow the processes that are in place, and there's very little room of flexibility and of creativity in a hotel specifically. So at that point, I started thinking, maybe I want to do something that's more towards technology, and maybe changing this a little bit, bringing or at least going on the corporate level to be able to really explore the opportunities around marketing for a hotel. And in the end, what happened is I joined into the FHS, which was the Future Hospitality Summit. I joined the group that was organizing this, and I was the host speaker for the event in the first edition, and I was part of the organization and all these types of things. That must have been in 2014 or 15, I forget. And there we invited so many different startup owners and companies to participate in presenting in the event, that actually I met my future CEO. And simply we got to chatting. I presented him on stage, and a year later, when I was graduating, he came back and he hired me as a salesperson in the company. And from there, I got the opportunity to start as a trainee, move on to being a sales manager, being in charge of a sales country, then becoming, I managed a little team, and then I moved on to the next stage, which was taking care of partnerships for the company, and then developed into taking over the marketing department, and now I am in charge of the entire leadership or I lead, let's say, the entire commercial team. So meaning sales, marketing, and partner management, and with the whole team, and making sure that, let's say, the strategy follows the direction of the company and all these types of things. So excellent. That's a little bit my path.
Thank you. Excellent. The poll has gone back in. So strategic thinking leads, and yes, it is fair enough. It's interesting that leadership and revenue management are quite low, both of them, because we're in the sort of going to leadership, and maybe the traditional leadership may not be the way to read it. It's basically about change management. It's about, you know, dealing with the multicultural diversity and everything. So it probably, it's interesting to see how the perceptions are. It is certainly less exciting in some ways to study about leadership in a hotel school, but those people skills, the soft skills gained, are certainly of paramount importance in whatever you do in life. But it's very interesting. Thank you for this. And digital skills, of course, is quite high, but that's in tune with the time, and it is very good. So the next slide is basically about questions, and I do not know if we have any questions.
Yes, we have tons of questions. They go through, so apologies, we won't be able to reply to everybody. We'll go a little bit over the hour anyway, so for those that can stay. So tons of questions. Thank you very much, first of all, to all of you. Was terrific. The first question was about banqueting and congress tourism, MICE, conference and events. Since now, very interesting topic, since now a lot of people are finding actually online meeting and online conferences working well, will there still be a need for face-to-face meeting and conferences? Will banquets and congress tourism go bankrupt? Let's predict the future.
Would you like to go with that, Dorian, first, in a short reply?
Super short, and a little bit controversial. The most fun part of every conference and event out there is, I'm sorry for anybody that it shocks, it's the drinking. So believe me, mice will not die. If there's an opportunity for people to meet and have a good time and party, it will continue happening.
Excellent. Paolo?
Absolutely, I completely agree. And also for many industries, the experiential part is very important, and you cannot have that in an online meeting. So people will keep looking for that and trying to offer that.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, the meetings is all about the social aspect, the informal interaction, even in the workspace. Today, we're all missing this social interaction over a cup of coffee or someone, you know, even in a few seconds, you can exchange enough ideas that would take an hour meeting between 5 people, and it's a difficult thing. So online meetings will stay, but I think certainly the physical face-to-face MICE, I think, is there for the future. We need this social interaction. We are human beings. That's how we function. We cannot be behind our computers. I think it is certainly there. And you're right. I organized trips in Dubai, and over a drink last year, I met someone from a new developer in Dubai, and he said, "Oh, well, we're starting the building, and then please come and visit the hotel when you come back next time." And it was really, I was having a beer and he was having a glass of wine, and I don't know why we said hi to each other, and that's it. And you would not have this online, and I could contact him, but he would say, "No, sorry, but I'm busy." But suddenly it's over a glass of wine, a glass of beer. This is how, incidentally, I went to the Middle East for my job there as GM for a hotel. It was accidental over a beer with a friend, and we applied for a job together. And I'd not gone for a beer with him that day. I would have stayed in Switzerland, I assume. So sometimes you have to follow your heart, and certainly we need the face-to-face. Yes, more question, please. I hope we answered the
Another
question.
Yes, yes, I think so. Thank you very much. Another question is about salaries in the hospitality industry and how to retain top talent. If is an industry with very big disparity between salaries, right, and a lot of turnover, how do you think the current crisis will affect that? And shouldn't, so it's a twofold question, and shouldn't the hotels have been much better prepared with longer term planning, especially in their cash flow and liquidity?
You know, preparation is always, in hindsight, a great thing. We always try to reinvest, reinject in the business to make the business grow. You don't build war chest because, you know, this current situation is not normal. But in all walks of life, we realize that maybe, you know, we were a little bit unprepared for a global crisis. But is it each individual business responsibility? I'm not sure. Dorian or Paolo, please feel free to join in if you had a little war chest to survive a crisis, or you just go with the flow and try to reinvest as much as you can in the business to grow.
I can say something. I mean, there were two parts of the question, right? First of all, salaries and retaining talent. I think that any company needs to be aware that if they don't pay their employees the right amount, they will lose their talent, because there will be people that have deeper pockets that will be willing to pay. If you're going to pay less, then you need to compensate with something. And that means that the job that the people do needs to be exceptionally exciting. So if the job that the people do is exciting, then in that case, you can allow yourself to pay a little bit less. But if you want to maintain your client or your talent, and the job is the same as in any other company, then in that case, you need to pay them what they deserve. That's for sure. And regarding the war chest about preparing for a crisis, very simply, if everybody was prepared for a crisis, we wouldn't be talking about a crisis. So there's no need, actually. I'll be even a little bit aggressive on it. There's no need to discuss if we could have been more or less prepared, or if even governments could have been more or less prepared. You can always be more prepared. But the whole thing of this type of situation, and it wouldn't be fun if we knew that this type of thing was happening all the time. So the best way to look at a crisis is not about blaming that maybe we could have been badly prepared, but more in the other, or that we could have been better prepared, but more in the other direction, and seeing what is the best way to recover from this situation, because we're anyway in it. And be sure that in 10 years, you're going to see another crisis that's going to be about something completely different. And maybe think about it then that, you know, you maybe at that point was not prepared as well, because nobody else was. And that's just a fact of life.
Thank you.
Maybe... Okay, another question.
Yes, a very interesting one. You have heard that Accor is proposing a safe eco label for COVID-19. So like a sticker to put on every hotel that is safe for COVID. These are kind of marketing propositions that they want to pull up. Is it a real opportunity, you think, to feel customers safe, they want to travel again, or is just a little marketing move?
You, Paolo?
That's actually what I'm working on, how I spend most of my day today. Yes, it's not only Accor. There's a lot of this discussion going on now by companies, by governments as well, of looking for ways to make guests feel safe again. So for sure, it has a big marketing value you put it out there that you're doing something about it. But I'm sure we will get to the point in a few months where everybody will be claiming the same thing, maybe under different labels. But it's also a big opportunity to really do something to standardize what we're doing to respond to the crisis, and in practice, guarantee to our guests that we are reacting and that we are adjusting and that they can be safe and comfortable staying with us. So a lot will depend on the credibility of these certifications. It's too early to tell. Some will be more serious than others. I think we have the responsibility, not only for marketing purposes, but also really for our guests' best interests, to look for those labels and certification that actually mean something and adopt them. So.
Okay, thank you. Do you have another question?
We have tons of questions, but I think we have a bit run out of time. I thank you for everybody that posted questions. We have also had some asking more info about the program.
Okay, so I'll run through the program.
Exactly, thank you.
Thank you, Mario. So the Postgraduate Diploma program essentially designed for career changes, but it doesn't have to be. It's one semester in the campus in Blush. It can be preceded by an immersion program, which is very much 100% operation around rooms, front office, food and beverage service and preparation, understanding a little bit on mixology and everything. So basically the main component of the day-to-day operating activity of a hotel, that's over 2 weeks. It doesn't get you to become an expert, but it's a taster if you have never worked in hospitality. Then the program itself is over 1 semester, followed by a compulsory internship and a possible progression to the MBA 2nd semester. So this is a fairly new addition. And the next slide will show a little bit the course detail and the different modules. And you will see that basically it's a fair mix. It's not operational at all. So we have leadership, we have talent management because we work with multicultural diversity. We have a lot of changes. We have finance, it needs to be there, revenue. So it's very much a mix that gives you the tools to grow. It's not the end itself. The end itself is a few years experience, is more learning when you're in the field, is never stop learning. But there's also a study trip, and we typically go to Dubai with the PGDs for the simple reason that even if many of us have stopped in Dubai in the past, we go behind the scene and interact with managers of it. And it's similar to this webinar where we have topics of conversation and we exchange for an hour and a half and get the views from the industry. The advantage of Dubai also is that we have at the same time in a fairly compact city a new product to go and discover, to go and learn how they create and why they shift from, let's say, a model where rooms revenue was driving the revenue of the hotel to more F&B, and how they shift that and how they become more creative. It's a unique market, and if I link it to the MBA, we go to Chicago for MBA 2, and there it's a more traditional, the American experience. It's a different feel altogether. So we try to find MBA 1, if you add that route, you do Shanghai, Chicago, and PGDs is Dubai, and potentially Chicago. But each of the locations have unique sort of features that make it worthwhile. And well, Dubai is known for a few sort of iconic hotels such as Burj Al Arab and everything, but we try to go behind the scene and understand how they work. This is mainly the focus. So I think that completes a little bit the program itself on the semester 1. The semester 2 is compulsory internship, and during the internship these days, students have to do or develop a case study under supervision from one of the professors from Les Roches. So you will identify a topic, let's say, relating to services marketing or digital marketing, and you will research it during your time in internship. The advantage of this is that you've already got the job in the business. Now we want you to engage with heads of department, supervisors, maybe general manager, human resource manager, to discuss issues to enhance your learning, but also for you to understand better how the hotel works. And since we've started this program, many hotel companies like to keep those employees on board after, because they know that you're genuinely interested in a specific area. So it's a very good two-way relationship, win-win. If you take, of course, this case study, it's remote learning, but if you take it seriously, you can gain a lot out of it, job-wise and for personal learning and knowledge. And then on return from internship, 6 months in MBA too is a possibility. So I think that completes the program for the course. The next slide, I think, will show you the next date for the upcoming webinars. That's it. If you'd
Yeah,
like
there
to...
seems there is quite some interest from people about the postgraduate diploma and the other programs, Les Roches. So I invite you all to, if you have time, to also attend the next webinars, the 13th of May, about careers after a postgraduate diploma, and the 27th, a basic overview of the whole program, but actually quite in detail. Let me thank Professor Gueuning, Paolo, Dorian. Thank you very much for being with us. Apologies for those that we weren't able to answer all the questions, but please keep emailing us. Check the website of Les Roches. Email us marketing@lesroches.edu for any questions, and we'll get back to you. Thank you,
Thank you very much.
speakers. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you
very much.
Bye. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.